Chapter 14. The next day was Sunday. We walked halfway to Ballally to the church for Mass. It took longer than usual. Now that we had the hunger, we moved slowly. On the altar, Father Hart moved slowly too. When he turned toward us, holding out his arms for the Kyrie, his hands trembled. His face was pale and thin. We prayed for someone to help, prayed for the English to give up the rents this year, and then we came home. We made ourselves a meal of one poor hen. She was old and tough, but we ate every shred of meat and sucked on the bones until they fell apart in our mouths. We made sure Patch had the softest, whitest bits we could find. We didn't dare look at Biddy and the second sister, who scratched around on the floor beside us. "Do you think they know?" Celia asked. "I don't even care." It was the first time my stomach had been full since the potatoes had failed. But Granda said, "We can't do this again." He looked almost desperate. "We've lost an egg a day that would have kept us alive. We must keep the other two hens carefully and find seed for them somehow." Celia and I nodded, ashamed because we hadn't even felt sorry for the sister we had just eaten. We had been sorry only that she hadn't had more meat on her bones. Granda cleared his throat, looking up the way he always did. "They are building a road around Maiden Bay." "A road?" I sucked on the end of a bone, licking my fingers. "For what reason?" Celia said. Granda raised a shoulder in the air. "For no reason. The English will have us build roads that go nowhere. They will give us money, but in the end they want nothing to be better." "We are going to build a road? How could I ever build a road?" I wondered. "Not you," Granda said. "Of course not you. How could you break up rocks and carry them?" "Oh," I said, relieved. "Me?" said Granda. Celia rolled her eyes at me. "I will start tomorrow morning," Granda said. "No." I swallowed a piece of bone, feeling the sharp edges in my throat. Granda smoothed down his beard. "It's the only way." Celia bit her lips. They were chapped, so dry they were cracked and bleeding. I'd ask Anna what to do about it. She was trying to put every one of her cures into my head. A bit of boiled fish for sores, garlic for sore throat, egg white for, I couldn't remember what, even warm cow dung for burns. Foofar. Granda started again. "The rent will be due again soon." I closed my eyes. The rain was so much colder now, and the damp seeped through our clothes. I hadn't paid the last of the old rent, and soon the new one would be on us. I pictured Doc coming along the road, his pack on his shoulders, and I felt a pain in my chest. He should have been here by now. Suppose something had happened to him. How would we know? "They will give us a little money," Granda spread his hands wide, "and a meal at the end of the day." "The work is too hard for you," Celia said. She scooped up the bones and put them in a pot for a broth. Granda leaned forward. "The money will help feed the three of you. It will buy milk or a piece of salmon if there's any to be had in Ballally. You won't have to worry about me." "Not worry?" Granda chopping up rocks, laying them out on a road that no one needed. Celia stood up. She licked one finger and looked at the stain on her skirt. "Tell Granda he can't do this," I said, but Celia was looking at her feet. "I wish I had shoes," she whispered. "Celia, what about Granda?" "I'll give them a wash," she said. "That's the best I can do." I was furious. "Will you pay attention to me?" "I'm off to see Lord Cunningham," she said. "I'll ask for a job in the kitchen. I'm a good cook. I wish I had thought of it sooner." "You are a foofar cook, and that's terrible." I began to say idea, but it wasn't a terrible idea. It was the best idea any of us had in a long time. I thought of Maggie and the cliff the day she left. Celia is loyal and true. Celia went to the shelf for her piece of the comb, broken in half. It hardly smoothed her hair at all. "How do I look?" she asked. "Like a goat, a little nanny goat." I took the comb from her and gently ran it through her hair, teasing out the knots. Celia took a quick look at the closed door. None of us had ever been on the road after dark. We knew the she were out there. She shook herself. "You are not to move from your place at the hearth, Granda. You will stay here, a store, and I will cook up a mess of food at Cunningham's, and bring potatoes and buttermilk for you and a sour little limpet for my sour little sister." I raised my hand to my mouth. "I forgot them. Here we are starving, and the limpets are swimming around in their pail behind the stone wall outside. They must think they've arrived in a strange wee ocean." Celia and Granda looked at each other, wondering, I guessed, if I had lost my mind. "The ones I left there," I waved my hand. "I'll get them." I'd have to go out in the dark, too. A delicious treat, I whispered to myself, to give myself courage. I set it to Celia's back. She stood with both feet in the bowl on the floor, sloshing them up and down, looking at her toes. "I'll never get the poor things clean," she said. "Not unless I spend a month in this spot." She shook one foot, spraying dirty water around. The she will hate this water. She tried to smile. She stood at the door for a moment, looking back at us. I knew she was afraid, too. I nodded at her to show I thought she was brave, and then she was gone. I will go for the limpets, I said. I didn't want Granta to know I was just as afraid as Celia, and I didn't even have to go that far. But far to go. I crossed the field and halfway to Anna's house. I went to the doorway. There was no moon tonight, and the fields were dark. I could see a tallow light at the Mallon's house, but none in Anna's window. I shivered. I will go to the road tomorrow, even so, Miranda said, as if you were arguing with me. My hands are still strong and my back, you will see. I will bring money home and we will last, the four of us, until your doc comes home. I didn't answer him. I'd wait until Celia came home. The two of us would make sure he did no such thing. I stepped from the doorway into the dark world. For all I knew, ghostly gray men were out there waiting for me. I had heard they made themselves into wisps of fog, ugly and unfriendly to humans. Or maybe I'd see a bean-she with her hair flowing, moaning because someone was going to die. Something moved in the field and I began to sing Grenda's old war song for courage. I thought of Patch, and pretended I was holding his warm little hand. I imagined we were out to gather stones for his wall, that the sliver of moon was a bit of the sun, and I started to run. Where was that pail? I went the length of the wall, searching, so hungry my mouth was watering for those limpets. Who would have stolen them? I almost fell over, the pail on its side, water spilled, the limpets hard little lumps. A voice from so long ago. You never think, you never finish what you start. Oh, Celia, a store, you are right, I said, scooping up the mess that no one could eat.